Are you a human woman? If you answered yes to any of the following questions, then there's probably something that you love that some idiot boy has tried to explain to you, and you know more about it than they do. But that somehow doesn't matter. Well, you're not alone. I've been there with everything that I like, love, and know a lot more about than those boys. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. One of those things that I know a lot more about and have thought a lot more about than a lot of boys. Rick and Morty. Tea time with me, Liesl. So, caveat to this, I'm no expert. Gonna cite my sources because that's what ladies do. We cite our sources because we're not men who just get to say shit and then have people believe them. I like to think of myself as an expert. Before we get started though, I am drinking this Victorian Chai black tea from the Spice and Tea Exchange here in Charleston, South Carolina. It's pretty good. It's easy. And we're drinking it because, you know, a lot of the ideas about women that people have, a lot of men have, belong in the Victorian ages. So that's why we're drinking this Victorian tea. So, Rick and Morty. Let's talk about the story. We're talking about the story, not about the people who made it, because the story is what I want to focus on. All right, so the first time that Summer tags along to one of the adventures, Rick drags her along to this feminist planet. Well, a planet that turns out to be feminist. And I put feminist in quotations because I'm going to explain it. So at the beginning of the episode, Morty this is so weird when I explain it out loud. Watch the episode. I'm not going to try to explain the whole thing. When you try to say an episode, like describe the plot of a Rick and Morty episode out loud, you sound insane. So, Rick and Summer are on this planet trying to figure out where this alien that Morty has sired came from. So they're on this planet, and at first it seems that it is just an entirely warlike planet with these men aliens who don't need women anymore. Then you realize that the society is actually run by the women of the species, and they have their own little beautiful little citadel thingy-madoodle. They have subjugated all of the men. So in my interpretation, it's a planet that is what people assume feminism wants. Whenever anybody is like, oh, feminism just hates men, they just want men to not be a part of everything, that is a fundamental misunderstanding of feminism, and I think that that is illustrated perfectly in the female-run planet that they go to. All of the women are like, hi, how are you? How was your day? I'm here if you need to talk, blah, 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 blah. They don't fart, they don't do, any of the gross manly men things. They're like, why do you have a man here? And so she treats Rick badly because she's like, oh, you stupid man. It's not a perfect world, just having women rule it. And the end of the episode circles back to everybody back at home. They have their adventure, blah, blah, blah. Just watch it. I think the point of it is that there's balance between feminine and masculine energies. And the answer isn't to have a male-dominated planet, and the answer isn't to have a female-dominated planet. I was reading different articles online that are like, oh, this is just saying that feminism is bad and it's critiquing it and blah, 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 blah. I think to say that that episode is critiquing feminism is to fundamentally misunderstand feminism. Because feminism isn't advocating for for female domination. On that planet, the women are acting in a patriarchal way. If you actually read one of my absolute favorite books about feminism, Feminism is for Everyone, by Bell Hooks, it talks about patriarchal systems and how patriarchal violence isn't just violence from men. The patriarchy isn't helpful to anybody. And if you really pay attention to that episode, I think it's a critique of patriarchal systems which can be utilized by anyone. I also think it's very important to point out that the character arcs of Summer and Beth pretty clearly highlight some interesting things about gender roles. One of the most interesting points, I think, is the whole plot line where Beth has to decide whether she wants to stay with her family and be a homemaker or abandon her family with a clone left behind in her place and travel the stars and have an adventure. The choice that women have to make in their real lives, which they shouldn't have to make, but that negotiation between freedom and living and having a career and all of that and doing all the things that you want to do and going on adventures as a lady versus being able to be a homemaker and take care of your children and your family and blah 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 and yada yada yada. Also, I think it's interesting to point out that Beth is the breadwinner of the family. Jerry doesn't do anything. That negotiation, I think, is really, really well illustrated in that choice that Beth has to make. And in the end, there's both. And it's like, can you have both? Can you not? Can you ever? I don't know. Also, the character arc of Summer, how she slowly gains more and more respect from Rick as she goes. There's that one episode, Morty's Mind Benders. Rick and Morty both have their minds blown and they can't remember anything. And the person who has all the protocols to fix their brains and all that is Summer. She's the one who Rick trusts enough to put everything back to right when they around. Also, the thing that got me onto this whole tangent and got me rewatching Rick and Morty to analyze it from a feminist lens is this one very particular scene. So if you've ever watched a rom-com, you've probably seen that one part where the woman is monologuing and she's saying something and she's bearing her soul and telling somebody something that's very important to her and she gets cut off with a kiss. And I hate that. I think it's so stupid. Is what she says not important enough to wait 5 seconds to kiss her? Come on. Just wait till she finishes her sentence. Jeez. And the only time that I've seen it flipped, where a woman cuts a guy off, is in Rick and Morty. It's like the Mad Max style episode, and Summer cuts off Helmet Guy to kiss him. I just appreciate that that was flipped. The last point that I'll make is in reference to the Story Train episode, where they talk about the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test was created by novelist Alison Bechdel, who also wrote the graphic novel that the musical Fun Home was based off of. She created the Bechdel test, and it was a joke. It wasn't ever meant to be something that was intentionally used to say whether a story was good for women or bad for women. It was just showing how low the bar was. So the Bechdel test is a question: do two named female characters talk to each other about something that's not a man? And it's outrageous how few movies actually pass this. And a lot of my favorite movies don't, which sucks, but I think it's a testament to the fact that we don't have enough movies written by and about women. In the Story Train episode, Rick is like, tell a story that passes the Bechdel test, Morty. And he basically just tells the story where Beth and Summer are just talking about their periods. And that's kind of the whole thing. And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg calls them up and is like, good job, ladies. Anyway, for beating the scorpions with your periods. It's, again, anytime you try to explain a Rick and Morty episode out loud, it sounds ridiculous. But I point that out to say it's not making fun of the Bechdel test, as some people would say. Some people do say that. But the Bechdel test was a joke in the first place, and the fact that it has become a serious thing that people consider, I think, just shows how far we have to go when it comes to stories about and for women, which I guess kind of like circles me down to the end of my point, which is, what is my point? My point, I think, is just that women can like Rick and Morty. Gee, like, come on. Like, why do men get the monopoly on sci-fi? That's so stupid. I just don't understand where men get off acting like they get to be the only ones who like stuff and then being like, yeah, well, you just don't get it, or you wouldn't like it, blah, blah, blah. I'm a dude. Stop mansplaining things to us, and stop letting the episodes that critique the patriarchy go over your heads. Pay a little bit of attention. Recognize the satire. I would really appreciate it. This is just a list of random names. The number 4 school, Gail Hughes, Justin Farnsworth, Cynthia Powell, Hester Young. Who are these people? Anyway, that's the tea for you today. I know it was pretty hot, but anyway, that's the tea. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.